G'day guys. I've been playing Don't Starve and Don't Starve together for around 10 years at this point, and over my thousands of hours of gameplay, I've accumulated a lot of weird facts about the game and tips that don't really fit well into a general purpose guide of any kind. This knowledge that I've gathered will probably not help you become a significantly better player, but I'm hoping that you'll find it at least kinda interesting. Yeah, it's a very low bar on the channel these days. And to kick us off, did you know that Wilson has his own color? A lot of the skins you receive in game have colors attached to them like schematic blue or umbrage brown. You can view all these by looking in your Steam inventory, and among these colors is Higsbury Red, Higsbury of course being Wilson's last name. But this is not exactly an uncommon color for skins. If you want the rarest color in the game, then you'll be looking for Dry Macaroni Beige, which as far as I'm aware only exists in the form of this Letterman jacket. I myself am quite partial to a good wibbly wobbly pinky winky pink. These colors exist in a lot of the older skins in the game, which you could buy and sell on the Steam marketplace. This was back before character skin sets were really a thing, and so most of these were not character specific skins, but there were a few, like Willow's Scribble Black High Heels or Wicker's Pure White Pumps. I also find it kind of interesting that these colors are not at all consistent with each other. This Pigman Pink skirt is a completely different shade to this Pigman Pink collared shirt, and I just think that's plain wrong. Not as wrong as cannibalism though, which pigmen do partake in. I think it's fairly common knowledge that pigs and other meat-eating creatures will eat loot from their own species, but did you know that butterflies have cannibalistic tendencies as well? When you hold small creatures in your inventory, after a time they'll start to get hungry, but where rabbits eat veggies, birds eat seeds, and moleworms eat rocks, butterflies will happily eat butterfly wings. In fact, they'll eat butter too, which doesn't sound as bad, but probably shouldn't be allowed either. Butterflies can eat pretty much anything that the player can eat, meaning they'll happily chow down on an entire meaty stew if you're willing to give it up. However, since they only have 1 HP, if you feed them anything that reduces health even slightly, they will die. Hold on, did you hear that? No, it couldn't be. Oh my god, it is. It's the Tail of 3 cats. Did you know the whip crack from the Tail of 3 cats causes enemies to lose aggro? If you're fighting with the whip, there's a chance it will make a loud crack, causing all nearby enemies to be pacified, and rarely even bosses. I probably wouldn't recommend using this weapon though, because it's very expensive for something that deals spear damage. And it's more than likely that whatever you were fighting will simply instigate the fight once again. But it's pretty fun to use, and that's got to count for something, right? Honestly, you should be able to use the whip while riding a Beefalo. Then I might finally be able to live out my dream of becoming a cowboy robot. Anyway, speaking of Beefalo, did you know that when they're sleeping they hide their butts? This might sound a bit weird, but no matter how much you run around a Beefalo or rotate your camera, when it's down for the count, you will not be able to see anything other than the front of the beast. This poses a little bit of a problem in seasons where Beefalo mating is periodical, since it's not possible to tell whether or not you're going to be attacked for standing slightly too close or shaving the creatures. And sadly, even though you can't see their backsides, they are still more than capable of shitting on the floor anyway. And that brings me to probably the most important topic of the day. Poop. I think we're gonna have to talk about poop, guys. And this is not about everyone who takes their Beefalo through my base and leaves all the poop everywhere for me to clean up afterwards, and then I have stacks of poop that I don't use. No, that will be for another time. But why does poop have its own animation when it falls to the ground, yet basically every other item in the game doesn't? If you place food on the floor, it has a little drop animation and then sits on the floor. This is the same for grass, gems, hats, and almost anything. So why does poop have to look like it was squeezed out of something? I don't need that kind of imagery. They should be more like the feathers, who don't even have an animation. When you put them on the floor, it's like they were already there. Yet, weirdly, Malbatross feathers alone have an animation that's more of what you'd expect from a feather falling to the ground. It's actually really cool, and one of the highlights of the fight, in my opinion. Which, admittedly, is not a very high bar, but I think it's cool, alright? And now that I'm thinking about it, I can't recall any other creatures or bosses that drop items in an interesting way like Malbatross does. I don't know if Ancient Fieldweaver's boom counts, but maybe you guys can let me know in the comments if you think of one. And while you guys have a little think about that, I'm off to the Moon Key. Not for monkey tails or palm cone scales or pirate sails. I'm here for crustaceans. You see, I've got all these mush lights in my base, but I haven't killed Celestial Champ yet, and I'm kinda tired of going in and out of the caves to get more light bulbs and glowberries, so I figured I'd stick a few crustaceans in there instead. They'll also emit light, and I can simply feed them a seed to prevent them from dying. And since mush lights and glow caps quadruple the time it takes for their contents to spoil, I'll only have to feed them once every 20 days. Crustaceans are a bit of an anomaly in DST. They are one of only 2 creatures that you can put in a mushlight or glow cap, with the other being flying light bulbs. The crustaceans, however, will eat seeds and other foodstuffs, which make them a little easier to keep alive. It also means that you can prolong the crustacean's life without actually feeding it, and with an enlightened shard, this critter can live indefinitely inside a mushlight without ever going hungry. DST has a few weird items like this that make you question whether they're supposed to be used in that way, but it's also really cool that you can. One feature that is actually intended that a lot of people don't know about is using goodies for locking your pet's status. I imagine most people that can put up with the constant nagging enough to get critters in the first place would have a scrappy one, and since fighting is such an integral part of DST, it's pretty hard to get any of the other traits in the first place, with the exception of maybe crafty if you're building a lot. But if you do manage to get the peppy or plump traits by playing with your pet or feeding them a lot, you can lock that in by giving your critter a piece of taffy or jelly bean or any other food classified as a goodie. And having a plump critter is actually pretty handy, since they won't get hungry as often and therefore won't whinge all the time. Of course, you could also do what I do and play with a mod that eliminates the need to feed your critter altogether. Personally, I think this is an underutilized idea in the game. Play could lean into it a whole lot more and give critters a bunch of roles depending on what their owners do in the game, and make it like a mini flair or achievement tracker to show off to your friends. They could get a status for killing certain bosses, or surviving periods of time, or funny ones like drowning too many times. You're welcome to take that idea, Clay, it's on the house. But that's all I had time for today. If you enjoyed whatever this was, don't forget to like and subscribe for more in the future. You may also be interested in this video. Special thanks to my channel members and supporters. I give you all a little kiss on the head. And until next time, take care.